just want to keep track of my parts, and it's pretty easy to do because you should know which ones are your old pieces, okay? I've got that rubber gasket here. I'm going to have to put this on first. And it fits on kind of tight. That's how you want it. I'm just going to fish that up there, push it back and forth. That's my first step. Just push it all the way tight to there, okay? Here's another tip for you, incidentally. If you were 100% sure that it was leaking around this rim, and you thought it wasn't leaking around here, and maybe you went to the store and they just sold you this. You thought, oh, that's all right, this one wasn't leaking anyways. Well, here's something important to remember. These are rubber, and when they get wet, they get pliable, they get tight in there, and there's a certain indentation in there. And it's not a given that if I were to put that back on and tighten it up, it's not going to be in the exact same spot. Plus, these dry out and get hard, and you're likely to get a leak if you don't replace this rubber. Once this rubber gets dry, then you've got to replace that. I've had that happen a couple times with different things. Not necessarily with this, but with a Sloan valve or something different that we're not even working on here. So, just kind of keep in mind, you take things out and they dry up, and then you put them back in the water, they might start leaking. And I'm hoping that this flapper, see, this is dry now, I'm hoping this flapper is still gonna stop all the water. If it doesn't, it may be because this got hard and it dried in a crinkly area or a fold or just a slight warp to it. And once it gets wet and saturated with water, maybe it doesn't get pliable in the exact same configuration as before. And I might have to replace this flapper. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But if it does, I'm gonna check it all out and be aware of that, and I may have to replace this flapper too. Keep that in mind when you're fixing your plumbing items. Now that's not all the case, because with this type of install, you see there the washer, there's no way the washer is going to be right up against the porcelain anyways, because there's rubber right there. So then you'd have the washer there and the nut. Okay, but even on the directions that I've got, I looked at the directions, they want me to put this rubber washer there, then the metal washer, then the nut. I'll have to look at those directions again and see, because I don't know if I'm really going to do that. I may just put it on there like that. But in any case, look at your directions, read your directions, look at your existing toilet, the way it comes apart, and 9 out of 10 times you put it back together the same way and you'll be fine. Now, of course, if you ever get into an instance, maybe you don't have this type, maybe it's something else, and it's causing you to put a nut or a washer directly on the porcelain. You got these rubber washers, put that down first like I was explaining before. Okay? Way better. You see what I was talking about? See that rib right there? That little nib? Right there. That's the old one. Now see, the new one doesn't have that. And, I did a test. I put the bolt in there from the inside of the tank. When I tighten that up, if you can imagine this coming out of the hole here, okay? And if I put the nut on there and tighten that up, and I push that really super tight, it bulges right there. Can you see that? See how it bulges? and it kind of makes the washer or the gasket look like this one. See how that's got that rib? You tighten this up. See how it makes that same thing there? And that's what I'm going to do. Just going to tighten it up from the inside. And voila. Now I know these new ones were longer. See there? That much longer. And maybe you can see it that way better. I'm going to go ahead and use these. And I think that this is going to stick up just a hair higher than what was in there before. Not by much though. I think it's actually going to be about the same. But anytime you get a chance to use new things, you know, that come with the package, go ahead and do that. But like I say, if one of the ones on the tank next to the door opening as I look in there, if I have to, I'll go ahead and put the shorter one in there. Now these are brass, and brass doesn't really rust like steel bolts. And this green on there is just a discoloration that the water puts on brass, but brass lasts quite a long time. It's not really, doesn't really rust like steel. Okay, so I'll be fine if I end up having to reuse those. Now let's talk about this just a little bit more. Oh yeah, there's more to say about it. You know, that was the existing one. And I was fortunate enough to find one that's going to fit in there. All right? I had to go to 3 hardware stores to find that. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about. Would I have to put it back together like that if I couldn't find that? You remember what I was saying? If you've been watching my videos, and I hope you have, because I got quite a few out there that'll help you save money on all kinds of stuff. But I've said, you know, there's usually 2 ways to do something. If you can't figure it out one way, think of some other way, and chances are you'll figure out how to do it a second way. What do I mean by that? Well, here you go. Here's an example. Let's say we couldn't find this. You've gone all over the place and you're beside yourself. You don't want to have to special order this. You got to get your job done. You need to start using your toilet. Maybe this is the only toilet you got. You know, what could you do? Well, here's the option. Okay, here's your piece that fits in the tank. Now, this one here that I got, obviously it came with the whole set. It came with that. It came with my other rubber bushing. This was my new rubber bushing that I put on here already. It came with new bolts, new washers, new bolts, all that. A new plastic nut here that I'm going to use. But let's say you couldn't find a whole thing. What to do? Well, you can buy just this ring here separate. You buy the same size as the one that I took off. You can put that on there. If it's a little bit thicker, that's okay. You can put that one on there too. Okay? You can buy that separately. And where these holes are here, you can buy all that stuff separately. There's different thicknesses of washers and stuff, and they'll sell that as a package with the nut, the washer, the bolt, all the things. And maybe you only have 2 holes in your toilet. Maybe your hole's right here and one right there. You don't have a 3-hole pattern like this one here. Well, that's fine too. They'll sell that to you as well. And that's why you wouldn't really need this section here. You could do this all separately. Now see this outside rim here. You can imagine just cutting this part off. And all there was a donut. I call this kind of like a donut. It's not really a donut. It's just a big washer rubber gasket. Okay, they have those separate too. I could have bought that, and I could have pushed this in there, and then put this gasket, just the round one, and tighten it up with the nut, a new nut or the old nut that I pulled off, okay? Look just like that, except without these prongs on here, and that would be cut off, okay? Then you just do these separately. I went to the store and they had 3 bolts. I could have bought 3 bolts with different rubber washers. They're a lot thicker because they're set up differently, because obviously you're not going to have this end on here, right? So that was the second way how I could have done this. Now, you have to think about that kind of stuff, but I kind of wanted to match this up as best I could. And since I found this, voila. You know, this came with all the parts and everything, and it fits just perfect. So I'm going to use that, okay? But that's what I say. There's always, generally, at least 2 ways to do something. And there's your example for this toilet tank connection. I think we're ready to put this back together. Okay. We've got it from scratch. I've taken this one off. Okay, I can take this. I've already put this bushing on there. And I'm going to put this back in the tank now. I'm going to reach down in there. And put that like that. And incidentally, I have to have this twisted in the right configuration, and I'll go over that after a little while, okay? But that's going to go in there like that. I could have put that in now, or I could have put this in first, you know, like that. Push this through there. Get my new nut on here. Okay. I'm not going to make that too tight just yet. Okay, so far so good. Now before I tighten up that nut, I got my trusty channel locks here. I'm going to try to tighten that with that. I went to the hardware store and I was trying to find if they had a special wrench to fit it in there and to tighten that up a little bit different than channel locks. Because I remember how tight that was when I took it off. I had to cut this rim out of there and get right in there. Well, you just have to make this snug. You don't have to make it so tight that you can't do it with the channel locks. Now I'm going to be able to do it with the channel locks. I might do it this way. I might get a screwdriver or something and pry it in there that way and twist it that way, or, you know, get it like this and pull it, whatever. But before I do that, I have to make sure that it's configured in the right way. The tree portion, I call it, that's on the inside of that, you know. So when you pull that apart, you want to see how that goes, because sometimes they're facing up and down where the flap is straight here and the back of it is straight. Well, in this particular case, it's at an angle a little bit because this one has 3 screws, remember? So I can't put it straight because this screw might be in the way. Okay, if there was just 2 screws to attach this, I would be able to do it that way. But because this one's here, because I took note of that, you play this video back and you'll see that it's a different angle. And I'll show you that here in a minute. Okay? Sometimes it matters. Is there a right or wrong way? Sometimes the answer is yes.